Hey guys, it's Mario from Out of Box. I just did a partnership with the Players Podcast going over the new Spider-Man game and having a fun discussion with them. More mature audience, you should go check them out. They're a group of really cool people who just love to chat about video games. And I'm here to tell you about the game, whether you should buy it, ignore it, and why. Honestly, just go get the game. It's worth it. This one has been one in the making. My most anticipated game for the year, Spider-Man PS4, and let me tell you, it lives up to all the hype. From the opening intro to the last act, Spider-Man is a game that will be remembered. The game brings nothing original, but proves that when you can't create, you innovate. And this is done through execution. Let me explain. You probably already heard how amazing the swinging is, and you're not going to stop hearing it. Because even though there is a fast travel in this game, you will never use it. Swinging through New York is just so engaging. There are so many different animations for Spider-Man, making him look like he belongs in the air as he does this dance from web to web. You might need a second to get adjusted, but when you do, it just becomes so fluent. That's going to be a big theme with this game, is how it flows, because everything you do with Spider-Man just feels right. If the swinging wasn't enough, the combat is just the cherry on top. Now, the best way I can help explain it for anyone who hasn't played is comparing it to the Batman Arkham series. And if you still haven't gone to get this game yet, stop watching this video and go buy it. It's alright, I'll understand. Instead of being a brute countering force of nature that will break everything that stares him down, as Batman should feel, Spider-Man is always on the move. Replacing the counter with a dodge and having Spider-Man do aerial combat is so fun. I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw the combat, I was like, ew, that looks too arcadey, but uppercutting thugs in the air quickly became one of my go-to moves. And that's just the start. The game gives you 8 gadgets to play with. Each one would make Tony Stark proud. You have the classic web shooter, a web bomb, electric webs, and even a little spider drone. Plus, the way you interact with the environment around you, being able to throw loose items, pull down railings, not to mention all the perks and upgrades available for you. Furthering your arsenal, this allows every person to be creative with how they take out baddies. I personally ended up being like the Spider-Man from the 1990s cartoon, webbing up everyone to light poles, walls, and even the side of skyscrapers 50 stories up. My gadgets ended up being my choice of arms. Now, you can't talk about combat and gadgets without mentioning all of Spider-Man's suits. There are over a dozen of them, and each one gives you a suit ability, from simple things like extra damage to even having the Iron Spider legs come out straight from the movies, all of which you can mix and match with your favorite abilities, really giving you the chance to create the ultimate Spider-Man. Alright, that wraps up the feel of the gameplay. It's good. Take my word for it. Now, I'm going to talk about some of the things I didn't like, because I want to end this video on a high note. There isn't a lot of bad things, but they are noticeable, like the puddles. No, I'm just kidding. I'll get to that in a sec. But boy, this game can be glitchy. I ran into 3 during my playthrough, and you can easily YouTube others more hilarious than the ones I got into. This game feels so polished, so whenever you do run into a glitch, it's kind of funny. I had a bomb timer stuck on the corner of my screen for a good 30 minutes, just ominously waiting me out. And there were 2 times where the last guy of my fights got glitched into a wall. The first time I had to reload checkpoints, and the other time I was through. I said, no, not again, and I continued to web and gadget him until I was able to get him webbed inside of the wall he was stuck in. And my final complaint was the boss fights. Now, this may be more nitpicking on my part. See, the thing about these boss fights in the game is that they're very formulaic, with you swinging around, dodging until you have a chance to stun the boss, and then attack. Rinse and repeat this till the boss is defeated. However, Insomniac does do a good job mixing up the fights in ways that they are enjoyable. Even though I knew I was doing the same thing for each boss, there was enough variety. There was enough I can't speak. There was enough variety to make each one memorable. For example, there's a fight that requires you to handle the boss plus all his goons, and on hard mode, it's kind of a juggle. Also, there's another fight where you basically spend the whole time in the air, one of my personal favorites. I don't want to spoil any more for you guys, but the many boss fights really create an epic scale and give a one-on-one with Spidey and his foes, creating some of the most epic moments in the game and honestly immersing you into the role of Spider-Man. Which brings me to what I think is the best thing about this game. Well, it is actually 3, but all melded together, they create an atmosphere that keeps your hands glued to the controller. 1, the graphics. See, I told you I'd get back to it. I played this game in 4K. Let me tell you, as cool as New York may look at night, it is put to shame during the day. When the sun is out, you can see every little detail, to no disappointment. I mean, Every one of Spider-Man's suits has a different fabric. That's insane. Like, who does that? And the city is so vibrant. Just the little things, like the buildings having windows to their own little rooms, and every room having its own little detail, and the Avengers Tower with all other comic book and movie references that I don't want to tell you guys about because I want you to find it for yourself. It just adds so much flavor to this world and gives you a sense that Spider-Man isn't alone, and for the most part, he is not, because you're joined by Miles Morales and Mary Jane. Every interaction with them is just, oh my, it's so nice. Like, when you see them talk, the facial recognition they use is spot on, and it brings emotion to each scene. There are moments where you're really connected with these characters because the voice actors are so genuine in their performances. Which brings me to my second point. Yuri Lowenthal. No, not the police chief, the man who voiced Peter Parker. And let me tell you, this guy is my favorite iteration of Spider-Man / Peter Parker, because he captures both so well. For example, going back to the Arkham series, you feel like Batman, and you get to live the hero persona, but you just feel like Batman. In Spider-Man, you feel like Peter Parker, and that may sound weird, but I will assure you, it fits so well because Peter Parker is about balancing the two lives, and you see that through Spider-Man's interactions with every person, every side character, every bystander, every side mission you do. He's always having a positive outlook in all of it. And no matter the situation, it won't stop him from being Spider-Man. That's just who he is. Peter Parker's just a guy who wants to help people. Having Spider-Man talk to himself as he swings through the city is great commentary. You relate to what all he has to say, and that alone is what makes it so great. Spider-Man is meant to be relatable, and Lowenthal brings that out like a charm. Thirdly, the story, which I talked a little bit about, it is simple yet impactful. There's nothing wrong with simplicity, and no, it's nothing crazy original. However, I truly believe less is more when you are creating a compelling story, and they nailed it. Because Spider-Man is more experienced into his role, there isn't a lot of character development. He does grow, but that's not the main focus. You know what? It works. I've already seen Peter grow into a hero in so many different forms of media, so it's refreshing to see a more developed Spider-Man. I've already worshipped how Peter Parker sells this game, though the supporting cast is nothing to throw away. Each one adds so much to the overall plot, and the ones who don't won't get much runtime, which is how it should be. I truly believe that to have a successful game, especially an RPG one, then you need to have a good story to keep the audience engaged. If the story had failed, I don't think I would have loved the game as much as I do. Spider-Man for the PS4 has become one of my favorite Spider-Man games. Dare I even say superhero games. This game is going to be an example for future superhero games to come, and I have my fingers crossed for the hopes of a sequel. If I were to rate this game, I'd give it an 8. I know that sounds low for how much praise I've given, but I got to be honest, with my fanboyism aside, the main story being at 20 hours is fine for me. I know not for others, but it's good for me. But there's just no reason to stay and play the game after you're done with it. Because, I mean, you can platinum the game as you finish it. And if not, it doesn't take long to platinum it after you've finished it. And some of the glitches can take you out of the immersion, but overall, I was scared that this game wouldn't get the attention it deserved, due to a lot of people suffering from spider fatigue with all the games, movies, reboots. But just like overdue bills and cynical villains, that never stopped our web slinger. Thank you all for listening to my overview about Spider-Man. If you want to hear more from me, give me a subscribe, like the video if you did, dislike it if you don't, I really don't mind. Also, you can follow me at the Twitter link below. You can also follow the Out of Box Twitter, which is honestly just me again, but I'm just more focused on video games and movie media and, nerd stuff like that. Check out the Players Podcast. I'll have their Twitter link below. It's at players_podcasts. Again, they're a really cool group of guys, and I want to thank them again for having me. Keep gaming, guys, and play nice. Oh yeah, and those missions where you had to sneak around as Miles Morales and Mary Jane, I absolutely hated them.